This is an introductory training video to look quickly at how making tax digital self-assessment works. It assumes to some extent that people know about making tax digital for VAT and just looks at how self-assessment goes on from there. The Cirrus Stratus Exedra service on VAT Direct is now live for self-assessment for a limited range of taxpayers, those who have one self-employment or are landlords or are both. Therefore, more complex taxpayers cannot use it as yet. The changes in self-assessment MTD are greater than the changes for VAT. With VAT, the VAT return remained the same and the 9 boxes were exactly the same. But self-assessment is different, partially because there's a lot more information required for income tax than there is for VAT. So, the Cirrus Stratus system is both a bridging system and also a digital records system, so that you can keep the digital records in the Cloud Cashbook and submit directly from the Cloud Cashbook. And for the purposes of this video, we will look at how to use the Cloud Cashbook and submit different types of returns from it. The Cloud Cashbook, there are separate videos about, and those separate videos will explain how the codes are used to identify. So if we look on here, we have various types of expenditure on different types of codes, and those codes apply for self-employment, they apply for the annual returns, they apply for furnished holiday lettings, and they apply for other property as well, and various other things including charitable payments, gift aid payments, dividends, that sort of thing. So let's first look at the range of different submissions that can be made for making tax digital, and they all appear here at the top of the Cloud Cashbook. VAT return, that one has been around for a while. Then there's a quarterly return for self-employment if you are self-employed. There's a quarterly return for furnished holiday lettings if you have furnished holiday lettings. There's a quarterly return for other property. Then there's an annual return for dividends, there's an annual return for interest on savings accounts, there's an annual return for charitable givings, there's an annual return for losses, there's an annual return for self-employment distinct from the quarterly ones about trading, things like AIA, etc. Similarly, there's an annual return for furnished holiday lettings and an annual return for other property. So if we look, for instance, and we want to do a return for self-employed, we can go through that here, and then we come suddenly here to this, which tells us the various periods, quarters we can submit for, and it's transferred the figures from the Cashbook into the submission system. And then if we click here, it will then submit it. And for those people who want to use bridging, you can get a template into this clipboard, so you can use bridging in the same way. So that's straightforward. Furnished holiday, quarterly return, slightly more information than on the tax return at the moment, as you can see here. And if we close those two down, for the other property, we have another quarterly return if you have a property business of that nature, and again various periods. Now there's a big change between self-assessment and VAT, that VAT you cannot change a VAT return, but for self-assessment you can change a self-assessment return, and if you click on the option for changing it, you see the various ones that have already been submitted. As you can see, different figures come up as we type various options here, and then those figures come here, and again you can actually change the figures that you have submitted. So if you make a mistake and want to update it, you can do. UK dividends, this is an annual return, and at the moment it's UK dividends. There we go, that's gone across the way. We'll bring that back down this way. So other dividends, UK dividends, etc. And then if we end that and end that, go back into here, then we can look at savings accounts, and you can have multiple saving accounts. Of course, we're handling them in threes on the cash book, and you have the gross interest and you have the net interest there. And then we have charitable giving, for instance. We can look at the charitable giving return. Again, this is an annual return with various bits of information in it as to charitable giving. Again, just slightly more information than goes on the SA100 series of returns at the moment. And then we look at self-employment annually, and for the annual self-employment, obviously you have things like the AI, farming averaging, that sort of thing, all the things which are put in the SA100 series of returns. And then we have the furnished holiday lettings annual return. That's things like rent a room allowances, annual investments, other capital allowances, and of course we have the other property, which is much the same stuff, but obviously not for furnished holiday lettings, so that the information is slightly different. If we move that across here, slightly different because there's a bit more information there. So if we click on there, we can see that the various figures come through there, and those can all be put into the cloud cash book, or they can be bridged into the system. And obviously the objective is to have digital links in a similar manner. And then what we have are the tax calculations. So you can click a button and it takes a little bit of time, at least 5 seconds, possibly longer, and then after a period of time we should get, coming up on the screen, a tax calculation. There we go. And then you have the issue of crystallization, which is the end of year process where you're getting effectively where you sign the tax return in essence. So this waits a while for HMRC to do the calculation, and then just a little bit of time after the symbol disappears, we normally get the calculation. Here we get the calculation. At the bottom of it, it has a tax calculation ID, and what you have to do, if we click that button there, it says you need to click the box because you have to agree the declaration here, and you have to tick the box which is down. Let's OK on that. Go down the page a little bit, click the tax calculation box, and that submits the tax return at the end of the tax year. We also have the end of period statements, which are for property. So we have a sort of figures there, and as to whether those are agreed, again with a declaration. And we have a similar thing for self-employment. Again, there we go, that's the self-employment, same sort of process with a declaration to form part of the final tax return. So that's a very rapid look at self-assessment, making tax digital. All of this is currently available with production credentials via Cirrostrata, etc., the VAT Direct service, and we will be launching the Self-Direct Direct service relatively soon, but in fact it's the same service, just with a different domain name. So that's available for anyone who wishes to make use of it. Thank you for listening to this video.